Adam Leipzig is a filmmaker, author, and cultural activist. He has supervised, produced, and distributed more than 25 movies, and those include Dead Poets Society, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Story of the Weeping Camel, March of the Penguins. Adam is a former senior executive at Disney and the president of the National Geographic Films, and he is the author of the new book that just came out, Inside Track for Independent Filmmakers: Get Your Movie Made, Get Your Movie Seen, and Turn the Tables on Hollywood, which has been hailed as an absolutely essential book for filmmakers everywhere. Please join me in welcoming Adam Leipzig, everybody. Give him a round of applause.
We live in a world where people care deeply about what you have to say right now, and you have the power to share it. This is your salvation. This is our salvation together. We're all highly connected. So we have so much to talk about. I've been making notes. I've been here all day. But do you mind if I start with a story?
Go ahead.
All right, this is crunch time. This is green light time. You have worked for years to get your movie made, and you are now in the head of the studio's office, and there's room temp water on the table, and you've presented the head of the studio with a problem. You really want to start the movie now. He has to make the leap. He has to make the leap of faith to go forward with the movie. And you've said, you know, we can shoot it. We're all set. We're going to shoot it in Vancouver. But we have to go now, because after now, our weather window closes. And he's thinking, boy, I don't really want to pull the trigger. I don't want to commit. Can't we wait a little bit longer? And we say, yeah, but you know, then it's going to cost 25% more. We don't want to spend the money. We want to shoot in Vancouver now. And he says, but I don't want to shoot now. And we say, but the weather window is going to close. And he's thinking, okay, I could shoot it now, but I'd have to pull the trigger, and I'd have to shoot in Vancouver. Or I could shoot it later, and it would cost more, but I wouldn't have to make a decision now. Or I could shoot it in Vancouver, and I would have to pull the trigger now, but I'd save 25%. Or I would have to shoot it later, and I don't know what's going to happen. And you can see the wheels turning. They're grinding. It's like you can see this machine. It's on self-destruct mode. And then, all of a sudden, you see, like in the cartoons, this light bulb go off above his head. And it's like he's Einstein, who has just figured out the theory of relativity. And he smiles, he leans back, he smirks, because he's smart, and you're not. And he's figured this out, and you have not. And he says, here's what we're going to do. We're going to wait a few months, but we're still going to get the Canadian savings. Instead of Vancouver, I want you to shoot it in southern Canada. Geographically challenged. My brothers and sisters, how do we work with these people? Okay, because we need to work with these people. These are the gatekeepers. We need their gates. They have big gates. And their big gates lead us to big audiences, and we want big audiences. So right now, in the next 10 minutes, let's learn how to work with the gatekeepers. Let me share that with you, because I have a secret to tell you about the gatekeepers. They're just like us. They are just you and me. At their core, they want to be artists too. And at their core, even though they listen for the no, because they have to say no most of the time they have to pass, secretly, deeply, they want to say yes. But here's why it's so hard for us to talk to the gatekeepers. Because as artists, in order to make our work part of our artist journey, is not to be in the room with them. In fact, it's not to be in the room with anybody. In order to be artists, we need to be in our studios, in our private rooms, in our laptops, in our coffee shops, in our private personal space, so we can be in that sacred, protected space so we can make our work. That's the only work that is worth making, right? That's the place where we can be free enough and vulnerable enough to share what we have to share. And make no mistake that unless you are prepared to share the secrets that you are afraid of sharing, nobody wants to listen to what you have to say. So how do you talk to the gatekeepers? Because what you have to do is there's this moment where you have to move from this very inward-focused place, where you have worked inside yourself in this vulnerable place, and you have to open the door, and you have to step outside, and you have to turn yourself inside out so you can talk to them. And you have to begin to think like them. You have to begin to think like your audience. You have to begin to think like your buyer. Now, how do you think like your buyer? How do you think like your audience? Well, the first thing you have to do is prove that you have an audience there in the first place. All this person cares about, all the gatekeeper cares about, is evidence so he can say yes. Do you want to know why he can say yes? Because the first thing is that people who run studios right now are bored. They are bored with sequels. They are bored with reboots. They are bored with doing things as they have done them for the past 3 or 4 years. And would you like proof of that? I'll give you evidence of that right now. Last year was the year of the $100 million indie movie, Cloud Atlas, and Django Unchained, and Life of Pi. Those are $100 million indie movies that were partially funded by studios. Studio executives want to say yes. They want your greatest work. But you just have to speak their language. You have to present the evidence for it. And the evidence for that is to show them other things that are like the movie that you want to make that have also made money. Now look, John Borman famously said, making a movie is the process of turning money into light. Our job is to turn our light and show how it can turn into money for everyone, for the executives, for the studios, for the audience, and for ourselves. And you don't do that by saying, hey, this movie's going to be good for you. Hey, this movie is broccoli. Hey, this movie is medicine. You really need your medicine. No broccoli, no medicine, no spinach, please. You have to say, it's like other movies that have made money, and here's how, and here's why. And you have to present your evidence, because that is the truth test that the executives face when they decide to greenlight your movie. And you know what else? It's your personal truth test as well. Because when we are inside in our private space, in order to stay in our private space, we need to block out the outside world. We need to disbelieve anything that would doubt us, because everyone will doubt us if we allow them that space. But yet, in our first moment, as we begin to step outside our room, we need to look at the evidence ourselves and make sure that there is evidence for the project that we want to put forth. It is the truth test. And if we cannot find 5 like projects in the past 5 years, whether they're movies or TV shows or webisodes or other kinds of content or books or seminars or anything that it is that we wish to offer to the world, if we cannot find 5 in the past 5 years that are in some way similar that we can point to as comparatives, we better go back into our room and rethink, because the audience will not be there to meet us. And that time in our room is too sacred and too important for us to waste and not be able to share it with the world. And then we have to be really strict with ourselves and focus on quality. You know, the biggest enemy of all of us here is our willingness to accept mediocrity. It's our willingness not to be tough on ourselves and call things out, to look at something that is ugly and unattractive. So you have to be valiant, poetic warriors in your quest of quality. And if you follow those steps, if you accept that challenge, if you go for quality and follow your own evidence and turn yourself inside out and listen to your audience and know who your audience is before you go, then when you walk into the room of the gatekeepers, the gates open wide before you. And you will never, ever have to shoot a movie in southern Canada. Thank you.